Hey, what is up, guys? Bluntguts here. This is a Watcher of Realms video. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited to bring to you Sun Wukong. Just showed up on the test server, and I immediately launched into testing him. He is awesome. Very cool hero. I'm very excited about that. I don't know that he's going to be quite the game changer that I thought he was going to be. There's some very, very powerful elements to his kit, though, and it is impressive. He is impressive. So I think we'll start off. I will show you the cinematic that he has. That's a good place to start. Before I do that, though, please do take a second, click that thumbs up button, like the video. If you're so inclined, I would definitely appreciate a sub. Support my channel. I would appreciate it. Let's go take a look at his cinematic. So very cool, short but very cool cinematic. I do appreciate the cinematics always. Honestly, I think that's it's so exciting when all of a sudden the screen goes gold and all of a sudden you get that cinematic popping up. It really adds the drama in this game. It's one of the things I love about it. It's definitely one of the things that kind of grabbed me. It let me know that I pulled somebody of significance when I saw cinematic come. That's not always true, of course, as we know. There's some cinematics that can be quite disappointing. Thinking of Regulus in particular, but this is going to be a good one. We're going to be excited when we see this over and over again, hopefully next week. So let's go get in here. Let's take a look at his base stats. All right, I do have his basic stats up on the screen right here. And the first thing I want to call your attention to is the attack range. He does have a 2-tile attack range. That was what we were led to believe he would be released with, but you never really know until it does show up on the test server. And since Moonton has authorized us to make content about him on the test server, it should mean that this is likely the state that he is going to be released on global in. So we should be able to count on the fact that he will have this 2-tile range. It's great to see. Honestly, I think it's a baseline that all fighters at this point in the game should really have, but many of the recently released fighters have not had that, and that is a huge issue if you want to use them in a spot like GVG, like Arena, things like that. Really limits their deployment options. So I'm really happy to see that. Now, could it be better? Absolutely. If it was 3 or more tiles, I think it would be much better because you'd be able to create a tile of separation between him and the tank that's sitting in front of him. But we don't have that. He is going to be somewhat vulnerable to, say, like Bookkeeper damage in GVG, Uncommon Destroyer damage in GVG, that kind of thing. Obviously, this extends other places as well. Anytime that you are trying to place him behind a tank and there is an enemy that is going to do splash damage or AoE damage, it is going to potentially hit him. So that is an issue. But happy to say that he does have the HP to build him relatively tanky without it being prohibitive. His HP is at 28,761 base, which is wonderful to see. That means that so long as you're using gear that has HP percent substats, you should be able to get him up over 60k HP relatively easily. That should not be an issue for you. Hell, you probably get him to 70k HP just on substats. Assuming that you have a piece that has HP percent substats for every slot of gear that he does have, you should be able to very easily get him up that high. It's wonderful to see that you're not going to have to build him as this like glass cannon who's going to fall over in a stiff breeze. I do love to see he's going to have some durability to him. Moving on to probably the most important part of his kit here, aside from the range anyway, would be his attack. And it is coming in at 6,498. You can see I'm getting another 50 for his faction bonus there as well, which is nice. But, this is a perfect spot. Honestly, it's not crazy high. It's not like Ardea or Phineas or Magnus, something like that, where they've got this crazy high attack. But it is solidly in the typical fighter range, or at least what is now the typical fighter range. This, again, is at A0. When he does get his A2, he will get a bit more attack, probably be up around 6.8k attack, which is very solid, very nice. We like that. So He is a well-statted hero, and that's awesome to see. Moving on, his cost is at 15, which is a little on the low side, which is great. Love that. It is definitely on the lower end of fighter deployments. I think more often than not, they're ranging between 15 and 20 or so. I think Phineas is like 23, something like that, I think. We were just looking at Eris the other day. He's got a 26 deployment cost, so it's awesome to see that Wukong is not going to be cost prohibitive. He's also got 2 block, which is pretty standard. Redeployment time is 60. Again, very, very standard. There's no really redeployment element to his kit, so that doesn't need to be lower like when I was doing a breakdown of Xena recently. Looking at his advanced attributes, I don't know why these are the advanced ones, but in any case, the attack interval, 2.6 seconds. That is very standard for a fighter. Attack speed 100. Crit rate 0%, so no inherent crit damage 150%. That is base. And then his rage regen, nothing really to write home about there either. Rage regen auto is 13. Basic attack is 10 rage per basic attack. When he is attacked, he's going to get 5 rage. So all these things on the advanced attributes are relatively standard. This is what you typically see. There's nothing that kind of goes away from the norm there. So I think with that said, I want to take you over to Artifact Material Raid. Let's go take a look at his talent. All right, I am in AMR 19 right now. I got Sun Wukong spinning on the screen. Look at that flaming cape. That is kind of awesome. You can see it kind of extending behind him. I do love that animation. Very cool looking hero, just in-game and in the gallery, things like that. So we're going to toss it in there. He flies in on his cloud. You got to love that. Very, very cool looking hero. There is his 2-tile range. Let's take a look at his talent. I will toss it up on the screen right now. So the 3rd basic attack summons 1 Sage's clone within the ultimate's range. Let's take a look at what that means exactly. So Sage's clones, they inherit 100% of the hero's attributes. Each basic attack deals 40% damage to 1 adjacent enemy. So as far as adjacent enemy is concerned, the Sage's clone can basically attack anybody in a 1-tile range around it. So any tile that is next to it, whether that's right, left, front, back, anything like that, diagonal, Sage's clone is going to be able to attack him, which is awesome to see. They are not limited necessarily to being in the path of somebody or anything like that. So I do love that. One other thing to note, the Sage's clone will take 50% more damage, but based on what I've seen, and I will show you on the screen in a second, they do not actually have any blocks. The only time they will take damage is from AoE damage. So you will see the boss in AMR 19 does throw out basically map-wide AoE damage. It will hit the Sage's clones, but that's the only damage that they are going to take. So that is cool to see. Going back to the talent here, up to 3 Sage's clones can exist simultaneously. And I should also note that the range, or actually at least the area that these Sage's clones can spawn, is this area right here. Now again, it does have to be on a deployable tile, but any deployable tile that is in this kind of like mini vortex range will be a place where a Sage's clone can spawn. Again, up to 3 can exist at a time. So very cool. Very, very awesome skill. I do like it a lot. Moving beyond that, gains 1 stack of Undaunted Might every 30 seconds, up to 5 stacks. Each stack increases damage dealt to elites or bosses by 1%. So you're getting an extra 5% damage to elites or bosses. You gotta love that. Extra damage, nobody's complaining about it. If summoning Sage's clone is not possible, or there are already 3 Sage's clones, the 3rd basic attack will instead increase the hero's attack by 20%. So if there's no room to summon anybody, then he's going to basically get permanent 20% attack boost, which is nuts. Even if he has already summoned 3, he's going to get it. He's going to have very high uptime on this skill. So if you think about it, he's got a 2.6 second attack interval. It's likely going to be somewhere around 1.3, 1.4 seconds once you do have him geared. So that means that he's going to be basically putting out a basic attack every, or a Sage's clone, every 4 seconds or so, meaning that every 15 seconds he should have 3 on the field, right? And that it's just, you can see he's going to have it up quite regularly. So you do love that. Very, very cool. Now I do want to show you guys, and I'll put it on 2x speed so that we can just take a look here. I do want to show you that the Sage's clones cannot actually block anything, because that is very key. Like I was talking about before, it means the only thing that can really damage them is AoE damage. We should be able to see it right here when these units do get there. You can see they're just walking through the Sage's clone. They're taking too much damage, but you can kind of see that they are walking through the Sage's clones. They would just end up at Wukong. Most of them are dying before they actually get past the Sage's clones, which is a good sign as well. But in any case, guys, going to take you over to Guild Boss 1. We're going to go through the rest of his skills over there. All right, we are in Guild Boss 1. You can see I do have Sun Wukong deployed right now. Let's talk about his basic attack. Let's go through the rest of his skills. So, pretty standard. P attack. Assume that's physical attack. Deals 120% damage to one enemy. I know I knock it every time, but good God, let's get some better names for these basic attacks. I know they're basic, but they don't have to be boring. Moonton. So 120% damage to one enemy. This is pretty standard for almost every damage dealing unit in the game. So it's fine. It's fine. Nothing crazy. Nothing to write home about. Let's talk about his ultimate. All right. So his ultimate, when fully skilled up, is a 700 rage cost ultimate. He does have 400 initial rage. It does have a 4.5 second duration. And during those 4.5 seconds, he is going to deal 100% damage 18 times to one enemy, and he is going to inflict stun. You can see the range on the screen right now is basically that mini vortex range that I was showing you in AMR 18, which is awesome. That is going to enhance, I'd say, his GVG viability, really his viability everywhere, because it means that he's not going to be limited to the 2 tiles in front of him as far as his ultimate is concerned. Now, one thing to note, the stun on this skill specifically is, because he does hit 18 times, is 0.1 seconds. So he's just going to be like very, very brief stuns, but it is going to interrupt whatever it is that the other enemy is doing for basically for that duration. Very, very cool. He's going to do 1800% damage in a very quick period of time. So you gotta love that. Here, and we can just take a look at the ultimate animation. You can see he spawns a bunch of copies of himself, and they all just smack the boss over and over again, 18 times to be exact. So, very cool skill. I do love that. It is one target. That is one thing to note. He does not really have any AoE damage in his kit, although I guess you could argue that by virtue of having these 3 clones up constantly, he is going to have kind of pseudo AoE, but that's dependent on a lot of things. Obviously, he needs to have room to spawn the clones and all of that jazz. Next up is his first passive, Golden Cudgel Strike. Basic attack has a 25% chance to deal 200% damage. Awesome. Very, very cool. And inflicts stun. Now, one thing to note, this stun on Golden Cudgel Strike is not 0.1 seconds. It is 1 second. And the second part of this is just as important, as more important, honestly, I would say, than the first. If the enemy is immune to stun, so basically anytime you're going against bosses or elites, when triggered, it instead deals an extra 200% damage one time. So you basically got, against bosses, a 25% chance to deal an extra 400% damage. Just nuts. If you think about it in terms of his basic attack, which is 120% damage base, this is going to be 400% damage against bosses and elites. That means that he is going to be doing basically 3.5 times almost as much damage on the Golden Cudgel Strike as he does with his normal basic attack, and he's going to do that 25% of the time. It's wonderful. I love it. We love that. Let's take a look at his next passive. All right, his next passive. When the hero triggers Golden Cudgel Strike, he gains 1 stack of Sunder. The ultimate consumes full stacks of Sunder, enabling the hero to ignore 60% of the target's defense. I will throw Sunder up on the screen, and as you can see, it doesn't really have a whole lot, and a lot of content in the description there. Sunder can stack up to 5 times. Using the ultimate at full stacks, consumes all stacks of Sunder. So, I don't know. I've looked through his kit. I don't think this actually does anything other than stack up. Once you get 5 stacks, when you use the ultimate, you are going to get 60% defense ignore for 15 seconds, which is awesome. I mean, it's great. It doesn't need to do anything else. But, one, it's going to be a pain in the ass to track. As you can see, there are no buffs in the upper left-hand corner of the screen as we're looking at Wukong. I do have them selected right now, meaning it's going to be impossible to track Sunders. You don't get any kind of buff indication for the defense ignore buff or anything like that. So we're all just kind of taking this on faith. I mean, you can see the numbers will increase after he does use it that way, but it would be nice, Moonton, if you do watch this, it would be wonderful to be able to track some of these buffs and debuffs. I know it's probably more of a pain to code that, but it would really enhance kind of the theory crafting in your game. So I would certainly love to see that. I'm sure others would love to see that as well. In any case, that's his skills. Let's go take a look at his awakenings. All right, let's talk about his awakenings. And this A1 is a banger. I think that everybody, you're going to want to get this, whether you're a GVG player or Arena or whatever. It's just so ridiculously powerful that it's just something that everybody needs to have on their account. In my opinion, you have the ability to do it. You really want to try. So The A1 enhances his ultimate here. This is his ultimate that's up on the screen. You can see splitting hairs, manual ultimate, blah, blah, blah. The first time splitting hairs is triggered in each battle, allies within 2 tiles gain monkey business. And monkey business, if we click on it, prevents death 1 time when the carrier takes fatal damage. Note, it does not have a duration on here, so I assume that it will work ad nauseum. You know, basically after the ultimate is triggered, everybody's going to have this on them until they take fatal damage. So that is amazing. When they do take that fatal damage, this monkey business thing is going to dispel all debuffs on them and restore 50% of their max HP. Now, it's not unyielding or anything like that, so they take another hit that's going to knock them down. They're all going to die, right? But it is a life-saving thing, especially in an area like GVG where your opponent is trying to take out your players. It's going to be really, really good. Really, really good. I mean, think of like Carnelian. Preventing fatal damage is the thing that really makes defenses a lot harder to take down, and this is going to do it not just for him, but for literally everybody within 2 tiles of him, which should be most of your team, if not all of your team. So, yeah, things are going to get even rougher because everybody is going to have it's going to have Wukong. I think most people are going to have A1, especially at the end game. So, yeah, GVG defense is about to get harder. His A2 plus 300 attack. You know, it's fine. I don't know why they feel the need to do this. I wish they would just pick one or the other, so I didn't feel like I was missing out. He does have over 6,000 attack, meaning that the alternative to this, which is typically 5% attack, would actually be better because it wouldn't be much. It would be like 325 attack versus 300, but, you know, it is what it is. It's fine. It's going to bump him up to almost 6.8k base attack, which is wonderful. It's great. A really solid attack pool. The A3. Sage's clone has a 25% chance to inflict stun when dealing damage to enemies. We can click on this and just see it is a 1-second stun. So it is basically the same stun as his Golden Cudgel strike. If the enemy is immune to stun when triggered, it instead deals an extra 150% damage 1 time. If the hero has Golden Glare, he will also gain 1 stack of Sunder. So this is really huge because 150% damage is almost 4 times as much damage as they normally do, which is amazing. They normally do 40% damage to enemies within 1 tile of them. However, this time they're going to do 150% damage. So they basically get the Sage's clones inherit his Golden Cudgel strike, but it's better for them relative to what their normal damage is. And on top of that, he's also going to gain a stack of Sunder, which is going to get him back to that defense ignore. It's just so good. So good. Defense ignore is so... really, any kind of penetration is so overpowered in this game. So just to rehash here, so that we're on the same page. Golden Glare, when the hero triggers Golden Cudgel strike, he gains 1 stack of Sunder. The ultimate consumes full stacks of Sunder, enabling the hero to ignore 60% of the target's defense for 15 seconds. So I'm assuming that when this says, if the hero has Golden Glare, I assume that means if he has the defense ignore buff active at the time. That means he will gain 1 stack of Sunder whenever his Sage's clone does their version of Golden Cudgel strike. That is 25% proc. I mean, that would be amazing if that was the case. It would basically mean that, assuming that you had clones that were out there actively hitting things, it would nearly guarantee that you would have full stacks of Sunder the next time you use your ultimate, meaning that every time you use the ultimate, which is very low rage cost, by the way, only 700 rage cost. Another one that is the same. Think of Hatsit, how quickly Hatsit gets back to her ultimate. He is basically going to get back to that 60% defense ignore on every single ultimate at that point, which is... it's amazing. Really, really good. Really strong. So you gotta love that. And speaking of how strong penetration is, plus 8% penetration on the A4. That's the best one. That's the one that you want among the A4s. I mean, it's not as good as typically like A1s, A3s, and A5s, but 8% penetration is not nothing. It means that when he is getting that 60% defense ignore, he's also going to be getting this on top of that. So it's almost going to be 70% defense ignore, which is just... we love it. We love it. And on the A5, this is a huge one. Increases the damage instances of Splitting Hair by 18. So it's going to double it. It's going to double the damage of the ultimate. And it's going to raise Undaunted Might's stat cap by 25. You're going to get the increase is 5 times as much as the bases, which seems odd. I don't know if I'm misreading something there, and maybe, you know, y'all can correct me. Maybe you're seeing something I am not. But only getting 5% damage boost against elites and bosses does seem kind of subpar for a passive, so I don't really get it. But this is going to make it 30%. Now, granted, you only gain one every 30 seconds, so to get to 30, you're going to need to be deployed for 15 minutes. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, maybe that's just a Guild Boss 2 thing. Maybe you're not really supposed to hit max stacks, something like that. I don't know. But either way you slice it, it is a long time. You have to be in there for a long time to gain the max benefit from this. So the rest of this A5 reads, as if this is not enough already, is another 25% damage and doubling the damage of the ultimate. Also, after using Splitting Hairs, Golden Cudgel Strike's trigger chance increases by 35% for 12 seconds. So it is a 25% base chance. That means that you add 35% to that. That means it is a 60% chance to trigger this extra special Golden Cudgel Strike attack, which is just bonkers good. It's so good. You're going to stack up Sunders more quickly. All of this is going to roll into each other, which basically means that at A5, he is going to be a wrecking ball, at the very least. I love it. I think this hero is going to be really good in a lot of areas in the game. I think that we all need to be shooting to get him A5. Don't know that he's going to be a GVG powerhouse as much as I thought he was going to be originally, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that before I close out the video. All right, so Sun Wukong. I've got him in Soulbound Arcana right here. I haven't tested gear sets. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually might be better off in Infernal Roar based on the way that his kit reads. It depends on how the damage is calculated for some of his extra strikes, like the Golden Cudgel Strike and things like that, and on Splitting Hairs. It could be that scales with Infernal Roar, making it better, or I don't know. We'll see. One thing that is interesting is there has been a dynamic in the past where summons don't necessarily inherit the Soulbound Arcana damage boost, but they will inherit the Infernal Roar. There's some testing that needs to be done to find out exactly what his best kit is. I haven't gone that far yet, but that will be something I'll be working on later today. So hopefully I will have a damage video out for you today or tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, this guy's really cool. As far as GVG is concerned, I think this A1 is where it is at. I mean, this is bar none, if you're a GVG player and you want to use him, and there's so many Nightmare teams out there that I think you are going to want to use him, this A1 is incredible. This monkey business is going to become an essential piece of any Nightmare team, in my opinion. On top of that, he does have the HP and the stuns, the CC, all that kind of stuff that is going to make him, I think, much more able to exist in a role sitting right behind the tank at, 28k, almost 29k base HP. You should very easily be able to double that without having to sacrifice too much damage, and I think that is going to put him in a spot where he's just really good. Now, there's a couple of caveats there, though. You're going to need to be able to spawn the clones, right? And that is range limited. That is limited by the range of his ultimate, which I can toss on the screen right here. You can see it is this kind of like mini Vortex range. It's like if you took Vortex's range and you reduced it by one tile, that would be what we're looking at here. So, I mean, it's good, but it's dependent on the deployable tiles that are going to be within that range, right? So that is something you'll have to take into consideration when you are putting a team together or really deploying him anywhere, is that, you want to make sure you're putting him in a spot where you can hopefully kind of hone in on the tiles that are going to be potentially occupied by the clones. Now, with that being said, because the clones do have kind of this omnidirectional attack, it makes them much more viable, in my opinion, because you are able to attack, like, they don't have to be directly in the line of somebody walking towards them, as long as somebody is walking by an adjacent tile, and by somebody I mean an enemy. Oh, I'm still kind of waking up here a little bit. So if an enemy is walking by them, they are going to be able to hit it. It doesn't have to be somebody walking pathing directly through them, which is great to see. I think that the big thing here for him is going to be that he doesn't have any true AoE damage. I think even looking at this Splitting Hairs ultimate that I do have up on the screen right now, it does say deals damage 18 times to one enemy. I don't think it's going to switch enemies if that enemy does die before those 18 strikes are out. So it's not like you can chew through one enemy and then switch to another one. But it is very low cost, and I think there's a lot of really compelling things in his kit. I think the armor ignore in his kit is huge. So he's not going to be good against a swarm, but he is going to be good at taking out like uncommon destroyers, axolotls, things like that, because he's going to chew through them like nobody's business, and he's going to get back to his ultimate very quickly, and he's going to be providing crowd control via his stuns. So I there's a lot of compelling things about his kit. I think it needs more testing, obviously. You know, it's hard to say exactly how these things are going to manifest in-game until you're actually in there. But I think at minimum, he's going to be a very, very good hero in a lot of different places. Whether or not he's going to become like meta in GVG or in Arena, I'm not certain of that. I think in Arena he's going to be very good at minimum in single target, but he could be good in AoE and other things because he's going to have all that room to summon his clones and that kind of stuff. The only thing I will say, because the clone spawning point is kind of random, you're going to have to figure out a way to kind of work around that, but yeah. In any case, guys, I'm really excited about him. I will be back with some more damage testing, hopefully later today, but we'll see how much my actual job gets in the way of that. I do appreciate you all tuning in. Once again, if you could show me some love, hit that thumbs up button, like the video, subscribe if you are interested in seeing more of my stuff in the future. I would certainly appreciate it. And I will catch you all next time.